Right.
90 days. You could reference 90 days, but fill in the blank.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. Dawson County Board of Commissioners voting session today is Thursday, August 4th, 2022. Appreciate those of you that are with us in attendance as well as those that are with us online. First off, I'll entertain a motion to come out of executive session. Motion by Commissioner Satterfield. Seconded by Commissioner Gaines. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And that is approved 3-0. We are out of executive session. Next, we'll do the roll call. As you can see, 3 of us are here and Commissioner Dooley is with us by phone. Commissioner Fawcett was unable to be with us this afternoon, so there are 3 present and 1 on the phone. We'll start off with our opening presentations. First up, we have a proclamation of achievement for Eagle Scout projects. And I'm going to read that proclamation. As the Dawson County Board of Commissioners, in recognition of Eagle Scout projects at Dawson County Parks proclamation. Whereas today we set aside this time for accommodations for 2 Eagle Scouts and their projects at Veterans Memorial Park and Rock Creek Park. And whereas Dawson County has a large and growing group of Boy Scouts, though few of these are so dedicated as to ultimately achieve the prestigious rank of Eagle Scout. And whereas to achieve this highest honor of Eagle Scout, one must possess not only integrity and character, but must also strive to serve others and importantly, start and complete an immense Eagle Scout project. And whereas Austin Wood did complete his Eagle Scout project consisting of a pollinator garden at Veterans Memorial Park, this garden will be a valuable asset to both the community and environment. And whereas Thomas Livingstone did complete his Eagle Scout project at Rock Creek Park to include bocce ball courts with ADA accessibility, this project will give park patrons another outdoor experience to enjoy among friends. And whereas Dawson County celebrates the accomplishments of these fine young men and are thankful for their outstanding contributions to our community and its parks, it looks forward to these Eagle Scouts being leaders of the community for years to come. Now, therefore, the Dawson County Board of Commissioners hereby proclaim August 4th, 2022 Eagle Scout Day in honor of Austin Wood and Thomas Livingstone. Are they here?
Mr. Thurman, it appears as though something must have happened and Mr. Livingston's not here. So we'll just move on and I'll be in touch with the board by another time for a picture opportunity.
And I can go ahead and give you these.
Yes.
To accept on their behalf.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, our next opening presentation is Habitat for Humanity North Central Georgia Introduction. Executive Director Steve Napier, Vice President of Development and Strategic Initiatives Sabrina Kirkland. Are they here? Come on up.
Sabrina, and let you guys know I've seen you around, but I've gone away. I've just gone somewhere else to work, and I am on the Habitat Board, representing Dawson County and helping Sabrina get connected here in the future.
Thank you so much for allowing us to come in and do our presentation today.
Can you hit that on button? There you go. You got it.
Oh, there we go. Now you can hear me. I thought my cheerleader voice was working. Thank you so much for allowing us to come in. We certainly appreciate the opportunity to talk to you a little bit about Habitat for Humanity, North Central Georgia. Our mission is to build strength, stability, and self-reliance through shelter. We do that with partnerships in our community and seeking to put God's love into action. Habitat for Humanity brings people together to build homes, communities, and hope. And it's, the vision is we want everybody to have a decent place to live. Who we are, Habitat North Central Georgia, we serve Cherokee, North Fulton, Dawson, and Forsyth counties. We are currently building in North Forsyth County, just on the Dawson County line, near Crystal Cove Trail, and we've built, we've done a couple of repair projects here locally as well. If you don't know about Habitat for Humanity, it was founded in 1976 by Millard and Linda Fuller, out of not Plains, but another place down south, Americus. Thank you. I should know that, right? In 2006, Habitat in North Central Georgia merged with Cherokee and Lanier Habitats to make North Central Georgia, and North Fulton to make North Central Georgia. And this year we have, to date, we have built 335 homes in our area collectively. And we've done 110 repair projects for seniors, veterans, and disabled families. Those are programs that are available in Dawson County. People can apply for those programs. Habitat homeowners actually build their own homes alongside our partners and volunteers, and they pay a zero interest mortgage. That's what makes it affordable. The only difference in home ownership for them, as opposed to you and I having a mortgage, we pay a lot of interest. They are taxpayers. They do give back to the community in that way. Homeowners are selected on 3 criterion. They do have to meet an income criterion. They have to be within 40 to 70% of area median income. So a family of 4 can make about $55,000 to $60,000 a year. That's the limit for them to be able to qualify for our program. Their willingness to partner, they have to contribute 150 hours of sweat equity, building their home, building other people's homes. And they do 50 hours of educational workshops that teach them how to be good stewards of their home. For instance, like home maintenance and what their responsibility is as the mortgage holder or mortgagee and the homeowner. So those are just a few things. And then they qualify through need. So their need can be a lot of different things, from living in substandard housing, overcrowded situations, or paying more close to 50% of their income in rent, which is most of the case that we have here locally. As you know, rents have increased probably close to 40% in the area. So in the last couple of years. So it's making it harder and harder for our families to attain affordable housing. They are tax paying. Every homeowner pays zero interest mortgage. Children living in the home score higher on their academic tests, and they have higher graduation rate. We actually have had a couple of homeowner children be selected to go to Yale. That was an incredible feat for this family because they came from a very poor upbringing, and they just succeeded beyond expectations. Homeowner families thrive, and their dream of college, education, and retirement become attainable. Here's our home buyer program. Excuse me, I will correct that top end at $67,000, 70% of area median income. They do have to be a permanent resident. They are first-time home buyers. And I'll let you read the rest, but their sources of income have to be verifiable, and they do have to work for 2 years consecutively in the same type of work. Our home repair program is similar, but not as restrictive. It's for seniors, veterans, and disabled families. They do have to own and live in their home, and they do have to meet income guidelines. There's no lower minimum income for them. So say a senior is on a fixed income of about $700 a month, and we do see that. they can't afford to make those repairs, whether it be a roof, plumbing issues, that types of thing, those types of things. So that would qualify them through need once, if they live in the home and meet the income guidelines. We've done a lot of repairs, 110 since we started the program a few years ago. And it looks to increase by about 25% this year on applications that we receive. Why Dawson County? Number one, we do serve this area. According to the census, Dawson County currently has an estimated 28,497 residents. 20.3% of Dawson residents include older adults, which is older than 65 years. From 2016 to 2020, Dawson County was home to about 1,263 veterans. Home ownership is unreachable for the average citizen, as the home prices are increasing and close to $300,000 for your average home price now. Homes in Dawson County, home ownership in Dawson County is predicted to drop from 65 to 58% in the next 10 years. The biggest thing I want to tell you about this situation with housing, it's going to be a crunch on everyone. We all know that. But the harder and tighter it is to get homes, the harder it is for our families to succeed in getting a home or even just shelter. So in the next 20 years, we're looking at about 1 million people moving from the city of Atlanta out into our suburban areas, which makes it more difficult for us to house people. The housing report, according to Dawson County Housing Market Report, homes in Dawson County have sold for 26% more than a year ago. That's incredible. If you're selling a home, that's great. This year, 3-bedroom homes were sold for more than 18% than they were in July of 2021. 4-bedroom homes were sold for more than 21%. So you can see that the increase in values of the home, how much it's costing to live, rents going up, it's making it harder and harder for residents in Dawson County to get affordable housing, workforce housing. And when I say workforce housing, that is people who live and work in Dawson County who can't afford to live here anymore. I'm not going to go into all these details. I'll leave that to you to read yourself as you have time. And will you help us to build strength, stability, and self-reliance here locally for our families? That's what we ask of you. We hope that you will consider it in some way. And thank you so much for your time. And if you have any questions, I'm available.
Questions? Thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
Right. Third item under opening presentation is a proclamation for National Health Center Week. And I'll read that proclamation. The Dawson County Board of Commissioners National Health Center Week 2022 proclamation, whereas more than 50 years, community health centers have provided high quality, affordable, comprehensive primary and preventive health care in our nation's underserved communities, delivering value to and having a significant impact on America's health care system. And whereas as the county's largest primary care network, community health centers are the healthcare home for 30 million Americans in more than 14,000 communities across the nation. 1 in every 12 people in the United States gets their care in a community health center. And whereas community health centers are a critical element of the health system, serving both rural and urban communities, and often providing the only accessible and dependable source of primary care in their communities. Nationwide, community health centers serve 1 in every 5 residents of rural areas. And whereas community health centers serve as beacons of essential resources and support and testing and treatment in the face of the global coronavirus pandemic, and will continue to offer reliable, affordable, high-quality care against COVID-19 for America's most vulnerable and underserved communities. And whereas everyday community health centers develop new approaches to integrating a wide range of services beyond primary care, including oral health, vision, behavioral health, and primary services to meet the needs and challenges of their communities. And whereas community health centers are governed by patient majority boards, ensuring that the patients of each health center are engaged in their own healthcare decisions. And whereas community health centers are locally owned and operated small businesses that serve as critical economic engines, helping to power local economies by generating 63.4 billion in economic activity in some of the county's most economically deprived communities. And whereas community health centers nationally employ more than 253,000 people, including physicians, nurse practitioners, physician assistants, and certified nurse midwives who work as part of multidisciplinary clinical teams designed to treat the whole patient. And whereas community health center model continues to prove an effective means of overcoming barriers to healthcare access, including geography, income and insurance status, improving healthcare outcomes and reducing healthcare system costs. And whereas community health centers reduce overall cost of care by helping manage patients' chronic conditions, which keeps them out of costlier healthcare settings like hospital emergency rooms. And whereas community health centers are on the front lines of emergency care crisis, providing access to care for our nation's veterans, addressing the opioid epidemic and responding to public health threats in the wake of natural disasters. And whereas National Health Center Week offers the opportunity to celebrate America's more than 1,400 health center organizations with more than 12,000 service delivery sites, their dedicated staff, board members, patients, and all those responsible for their continued success and growth since the first health centers opened their doors more than 50 years ago. And whereas during National Health Center Week, we celebrate the legacy of America's community health centers and their vital role in shaping the past, present, and future of America's healthcare system. Now, therefore, the Dawson County Board of Commissioners hereby proclaims August 7th through the 13th, 2022 as National Health Center Week. Do we have a motion for this proclamation?
So move.
Motion by Commissioner Gaines,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Satterfield. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote.
Aye.
And with that, that's approved 3-0. We'll go back to the Eagle Scout proclamation that I read earlier. We do have our Eagle Scout with us now, and I'll ask the board, what's your pleasure on voting for that proclamation?
Make a motion to approve the proclamation for the Eagle Scout recognition.
All right, motion by Commissioner Gaines,
Second.
second by Commissioner Satterfield. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote.
Aye.
And that is also approved 3-0. All right, we're going to take a picture for the Eagle Scout. Do we have anyone here that's representing the National Health Center Week? No one's here to represent that. Okay, I'll just give that back to the clerk.
Very much.
Thank you all. You.
There's only 2 votes.
So at this time, I'll ask everyone to please stand for a brief invocation and pledge. You would bow your heads, please. Our dear gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this another day and for the many blessings of life. We ask for knowledge and wisdom as we carry out the business of this county. Anything that we accomplish, we'll give you the honor and glory in Christ's name. We do ask and pray. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated.
The chairman to announce why it's showing up that way.
What's that?
These are showing up as not approved, but this was just two of us that are voting. so.
Yeah, we got one vote that's go, just for you know, if you're looking at the screen so that you understand that those are passing. We have two commissioners that voted here and we got one that are voting, that's voting on the phone. And as chairman, I normally don't vote unless there's a tie. So when you hear me say it's approved 3-0, it's approved 3-0 because the two that are here and Commissioner Dooley, who is with us by phone, which is allowed by law. Okay? But you will only see two of those on the screen because like I said, he's voting aye. All right. We'll move on to announcements. Are there any announcements? Okay, we'll move on to approval of the minutes. First up, we have the minutes of the work session held on July 21st, 2022. Are there any additions or deletions? Motions.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Satterfield,
Second.
second by Commissioner Gaines. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote.
Aye.
And that is approved 3-0 with Commissioner Dooley's aye. Next, we have the minutes of the voting session held on July 21st, 2022. Are there any additions or deletions? Motions.
Make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Motion by Commissioner Gaines,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Dooley. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote.
Aye.
And that is approved 3-0. Next up, we have the approval of the agenda. I do have two changes to the agenda. They'll be under new business. Items number 3 and 4. First one being land donation agreement that you heard earlier today, where some land was donated to the county, and the second one being the sheriff's office traffic direction pay increase request. And so those will be the two changes to the agenda. I'll entertain a motion with those two changes.
Make motion to approve with the two changes.
Motion by Commissioner Satterfield,
I have a question.
Okay.
My agenda did not have the opening presentation number 3, and I don't think the one online had that either.
Yes, sir. That was brought to our attention early this morning.
came in today and I added it to the agenda today.
Do we, okay. Well, it's not online and it's not here, so I don't know if we need to amend it.
Well, opening presentation, I mean, we could add that as an
Just
amendment.
maybe add that as
Add
part of
that
the
part of
agenda.
your
Okay.
amendment.
All right. Good with that?
Good with that?
Okay. All right. So with those three changes,
That's second.
okay? Any discussion? All right, hear none vote,
Aye.
and that is approved 3-0. All right. No one signed up for public comment in this particular section.
No, sir.
We'll move on to public hearings. First public hearing tonight is 2022 millage rate and property tax. This is the third of 3 hearings. The first hearing was held July the 7th, 2022. Second hearing was held on July 21st, 2022. The board is looking to lower the millage rate from 7.625 to 7.225. And so what that will do is that is a 7.16% increase and an income increase of $1,656,000. But it is lowering the millage rate. So with that, I'll open up this hearing. Is there anyone here to speak on the 2022 millage rate and property tax? Anyone here speak on the 2022 millage rate and property tax? Come on.
I thought we were, I mean, I don't really know what we're supposed to do. We've got some concerns about our property taxes going up more than 22%. And I just.
Come on up to the podium and you can tell the board your concerns.
Needless to say, if I had realized what we were going to be dealing with, I would have submitted something to protest our assessment. However, when I looked at the assessment, I thought, well, we probably could sell our house for this, but we bought back in 95 with the intention of retiring here. And obviously a lot has changed over that period of time, but here we are with a 22% increase, and I'm like, you know, most people's retirement incomes are down. You know, we don't really know, you know, what's going to happen, but I just think that 22% is a bit excessive, and I've got some really big concerns. We moved up here after our son was through school, so we've never really, you know, never felt like we were much of a tax burden to the county, but, you know, in return, you know, I just feel like, you know, things need to be a little more affordable than 22%. And I don't know what our recourse is.
So you didn't file an appeal? Is that what
No.
you're telling me?
No.
That would have been your first recourse, obviously would have been to file an appeal
Yeah. Yeah.
with
And-
the tax
and-
assessor's
Yeah,
office.
but the only thing I could have said, which I don't really, you know, I don't really know that this really matters, but, you know, I look at the property values around me
Mhm.
and I look at other homes and, you know, and yeah, all the homes around us were affected. But when I look at how we were assessed versus them, I'm like, you know, I know, you know, that in most cases, there's a couple of homes that would probably, rather than being assessed a couple 100,000 higher than ours, would probably be more in the neighborhood of 400,000 to 500,000 more. So, you know, but that's, you know, I can't do anything about that, but I do think there's definitely some inequities as far as how people are being assessed, plus the fact that we happen to live on the lake, which, you know, was the big draw for us from buying the property when we did and moving, because truthfully, if we hadn't done that when we did, we wouldn't be there. We wouldn't be able to buy it now. But you know, I again, 22%, I mean, is that, you know, I would think that if 22, if most people were dealing with 20, there would be more concerned citizens here. Or like I told my husband, if we weren't concerned about it, you know, I'd be real proud, because I mean, that's a pretty hefty increase.
Yes, ma'am.
Property taxes is really a
Well-
function. There's really a couple different things that go into the formula to determine property tax. And one is the assessed value, I think is what you're speaking to, which is not set by this board. That's set by the tax assessor board. And so they have the ability to go out and they send people out to look and assess the values of each individual parcel. And then this board, the other side of the function or the equation is the millage rate. And so that's what this board decides. And we don't kind of cross over. We don't have any say in what the valuation is. They don't have any say in what the millage rate is. And so what we're working through tonight is our ability, and what we do is we set that millage rate. And so what we're proposing tonight is to not set it at the highest amount possible. We're proposing pulling it back in order to help alleviate some of those increases that people have seen in valuation. So we're trying to do what we can to help offset some of that, but then the true valuation, what you're speaking with, goes to the Board of Assessors. And there's a separate board that deals with that. I would encourage you, if you miss the timeline, to try to appeal that. And I don't know what that timeline is, but in the future, by all means, if you feel like you've been assessed inaccurately, then that board will be the one to take that up.
You know, assessment, I mean, values, when I was reading the article about, you know, I guess the county looked at what properties were selling for and that sort of thing. And they were, you know, and I guess when they reached the point where it looks like there needs to be some evaluation, some reevaluation, you know, it's done. But again, we're talking a point in time. I mean, you know, it's because if you look at the market now versus even 5 months ago, it has changed, it has turned. I mean, no, it's going to stay tight because there's not enough homes, but it's, you know, we're certainly not, it's, you know, it's always going to change, you know, you know, I don't know what the future is as far as prices coming down. I really hope they do, simply because the affordability factor is just, you know, is beyond most people's means. I mean, we just happen to have survived because we went through many years of difficulty in terms of money and being it, but we just always knew that our home was one thing that we had to try to keep because that's the one thing that really allows you to survive. You know, you got to have shelter. But, you know, I just don't know at 22% how affordable it is to live in this county. I mean, as far as that kind of increase, I don't feel like, personally, don't feel like we get that much in services for our money, you know, and I just, you know, I'm just wondering, what is the average increase most homeowners are getting this year? Are they getting, is everybody getting close to 22%?
Tax assessor's office could tell you that.
Yeah, question about
They could tell you that,
Well,
what that average percentage was. I don't know what that is, but they could tell you that. I do need you to sign in for me if you
Okay.
will and put your address there.
sure. Okay. Well, you
And
know,
as Commissioner Gaines said, that's the reason the board is looking to roll back the millage rate to help offset some of that increase.
well, I guess I can call them to see if there is anything that can be done, but if I had any idea that this is what this would turn into, I certainly would have.
And I guess one other point to keep in mind for public in general is that the way Dawson County's property taxes are allocated, it's about 66% is the school board taxes,
Mhm.
and about 33% is the county taxes. So
Yeah.
that total number you pay, majority of it is school board taxes, and they set a millage rate. as well.
Sure. Well, I mean, that's the other thing. I just kind of look at Dawson County. I think you've got one high school. I mean, I realize you don't have the population that we don't have the population to, you know, to that some of the other counties have, but it just seems to me a bit excessive. So,
And you can get, I mean, with talking with the tax assessor's office, and you can get also certain exemptions too. I mean,
well, we've
with-
applied for some exemptions, which we were eligible for, but they're, you know, not, I mean, you know, I mean, it's better than nothing, but it's not very significant.
Right.
Right? Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else here to speak on the 2022 millage rate and property tax? Anyone else? Anyone else? Hearing none, I'll close that hearing. This is the third hearing, so what's the pleasure of the board?
I make a motion that we roll back the millage rate to 6.82,
In the seven.
So
7.2225.
7.2225. Motion by Commissioner Gaines, to roll the millage rate back to 7.225. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Dooley. Discussion? Hearing none, please vote.
Aye.
And that is approved 3-0. The millage rate is rolled back to 7.2225. All right, our second public hearing tonight is extension of an existing moratorium on the acceptance of residential zoning applications. This is the first of one hearing. We put in place an emergency moratorium that lasted for 30 days that gave us time to set up this hearing. The goal of the moratorium is to give our staff in planning and development time to look at our residential land use codes. And also as we have time to look at the impact fee or the CIE so that we can have a better picture of the future. And so is there anyone here? I'm gonna open this hearing. Is there anyone here to speak on the extension of the existing moratorium on acceptance of residential rezoning applications? Anyone here? Speak on the extension of an existing moratorium on the acceptance of residential rezoning applications. Anyone? Seeing none, I'll close that hearing. What's the pleasure of the board?
So legal went ahead and through the last 30 days, been working through. So one of their options were going to be for us to consider. And they created a resolution for us. And so I would make a motion that we adopt the resolution as presented. I'm going to read a couple main points of it. The number one, Dawson County Board of Commissioners does hereby extend the existing moratorium barring the acceptance of applications for rezoning to the residential land use districts identified in Article 3 in the mixed-use village use district and land use resolution until November 2nd, 2022. Number two, the moratorium extended by this resolution shall terminate on the earliest date of November 2nd, 2022. Two, approval of the Dawson County Board of Commissioners of an additional moratorium after a public hearing. Or three, board action terminating the moratorium. And then number three, this resolution shall be effective upon a majority vote by the Board of Commissioners.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Gaines,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Satterfield. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And that is approved 3-0. We'll move on to unfinished business. We have the consideration of proposed transfer station improvements that was tabled from the July 21st, 2022 voting session. Dave. I think he's got a couple of options he's going to show us tonight.
Good afternoon, Chairman and Commissioners. And before I did that, go through the PowerPoint, I just wanted to kind of touch base for the public's benefit and y'all's is kind of refreshing your memory. You know, we've been talking about this for a couple of years now, and a lot of that largely has to do with damages and the different transitioning from what the transfer station was originally intended for and what it's evolved to now, which has created a situation where we've had to shut down because of a commercial operation and because of some damage to the structural integrity of the building. We've had to look at other ways of being able to modify this structure in order to handle that, should we continue in that direction, or to also look at some of our recycling needs that we have and increasing the ability to expand on that as well. So in doing so, there really hasn't been a budget or engineering study per se that has looked at subsurface conditions, looked at structural conditions that would give us an idea of where we need to be. So a lot of that has been internalized as far as staffing goes and going out and researching and doing that type of thing. So you've heard in the last few presentations about Pickens County. And so Kristen, if you would switch that slide. You see here that, and this is kind of Cadillac. I mean, we're not talking about doing that here. We've already discussed that, but just a couple key points to help you look at what we're proposing at this point. And that is that Pickens has approximately 26,869 square feet of building. And what this picture is illustrating to you here and to the public is that their recycling center also encompasses their other uses, but encompasses their solid waste or their trash as well. And what you don't see on here is part of the commercial operation that goes on in the back, which would be residential commercial type debris. Dawson County has approximately 4,700 square feet. So you can see we have a considerably less amount of floor space than what Pickens has done. And you can see in the photos on the screen is that there are certain banners that identify the types of recycling materials. Then you see the individualized bins, and then those bins, you can see the material that's in there. So Pickens processing equipment is a baler, which you can see on the right-hand side, which is about a $500,000 machine. And then behind that, you can see the cubes that go through that baler, and the material is picked up from these bins and then goes into the baler, and then it bales it, and then they sell that out on the open market. And that money is utilized to be able to help offset the cost of the facility that they had as well, and some other expenses. So their equipment is a baler, a shredder, a compactor, glass crusher, mini excavator, and a mini loader. In Dawson County, what we have is a mini excavator and a recycling single stream machine. As you know, and we've talked about before, that single stream is kind of again, an outdated process now, and that a lot of this, and it limits what you can do, but a lot of that now is done through the baling process. So I say all that just to kind of segue our way into what we're proposing tonight. So looking again at that operation, that's what they're doing here. If you go to the next slide, you see where the floor recycling drop-off challenges. One of the proposals that we made in the last presentation was that there, as I said, are some structural things that need to be done, some I-beams that have twisted and bent and is compromising the structure itself. And then also the floor damage that's been created there as well. We have one small area that has to do with the recycling that goes into the single stream, and then we've eliminated several other items, that we can take. So we have insufficient floor space inside and outside of the transfer station. Again, this is going to go back as we segue forward. Lack of processing equipment. You can see we have one little mini X right there, and that kind of handles moving materials and stuff around. Then the individual scooping out of separation containment cubies into a trailer for haul off instead of directly into compactors, shredders, and balers. So as you heard in the last presentation, we had a contractor that came in and talked about being able to handle that material for us, transfer that material to a location of theirs, or to transfer it to Pickens County, and then have Pickens County, take that material from us, costing us, some funds, but not to the extent of being able to completely redo this entire operation. So we have, labor intensive, inefficient, and has the probability of mixing already separated recyclables, multiple traffic, equipment, and loading conflicts. These are just some of the challenges that we've had that you can see up there. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through here. The next slide on the layout. So to Commissioner Gaines's question and observation, which is a great idea. I mean, we've got the transfer station on one side, and as you remember in the last presentation we were trying to separate the two, from recycling and all that to this other side, but that requires possibly some additional personnel, some monitoring, assisting our citizens in separating materials, that kind of thing, extending the existing structure that's there now. In this particular case, combining those facilities or those activities, we would have to basically create what's existing over there over onto the other side, so that you had a continuous flow of being able to drop off, all your product, if you will, over on one side, and then do separating outside or building another structure over that. So what you see here, and it's kind of hard to read for everybody, but you see kind of where that yellow would be that proposed structure would go. And then the orange area that you see there, you see a pink kind of tail hanging behind that. And that would be an existing or not an existing, but a proposed roadway that would need to be constructed for that as well. So what you see up in the left-hand corner is a black line that runs through there, which is the school board property. And then below that is the retention area. So there's a lot of excavating and that type of thing to kind of combine everything together and possibly use that property as well. So that's just to give you an idea. You can see on the next slide kind of the traffic patterns there. And what we're really doing is kind of combining everything together. And if we have to have these bins, if you go back and look at the other slide where the bins were, we're going to have equipment that's going to be able to move those bins around, put it in a tractor or going to be hauled off, and then haul it from behind. So it does create some conflict points there that really we, would have to really study that to see what we're going to do. And we've got less than a quarter of the space that Pickens has, and that's why theirs works so well. So you're going to have a kind of a traffic conflict is what we feel there. So we talked about conflict challenges, traffic alignment and maneuvering conflicts, tire and metal receptacle conflicts, school board property encroachment, potential transfer station foundation damage, That's because that's going to have to be excavated out because the slope off of the side of that transfer station is going to be somewhat moved, which you'll see in another slide, or it's going to be impacted. And then EPD area, we've already had discussions with EPD about the detention pond. And we don't have an existing drainage system in that building now. So we would need to look at putting a drain in there because that runoff could go into that retention pond, and then that would be discharged into a creek that runs behind that. So there's going to be some regulatory things that we're going to have to look at as well. So the next slide that you see is the site development and construction challenges, extensive excavation. As you can see there is a grade separation there. And that would require, again, excavating that area out of there and then building a road, that would be able to handle the trucks that would be hauling this off. So it's going to have a more beefier road, if you will. And then maybe retaining wall access road construction. So the recommendation is that this is certainly a viable option if that's the board's desire to want to go ahead and go that route and keep it all on that side. But that the option 2 is a good solution in avoiding building an additional attendance stations and would combine the drop-off areas. But Public Works is going to kind of recommend that the board consider developing the proposed phase 1 at this stage of the game, because right now for the least amount of money and being able to kind of get these programs up and running and seeing how they go, that as you may recall in the last presentation I did, that we were recommending maybe an 8 under SPLOST, that we then, see where we are, whether or not this is working, and then maybe look at expanding that operation down the road. So that would be the recommendation now. Certainly more than happy to answer any questions you may have.
So option 1, as you stated, when you presented option 1, was about $250,000.
About 270, 250 to 275.
250, 270.
I mean,
Option 2, with all this grading and extra stuff, would be what?
we're estimating somewhere around the 700,000 range.
Okay.
And I want to be clear that, for the board's consideration that is an estimate.
Right. You haven't done any
Once we get in
engineering or anything. like that.
engineering and getting it
Understand.
laid out there.
But in option 1, we would be able to use some of the bin areas that we already
That's
have,
correct.
if I remember correct.
That's correct.
Okay.
The road's already in. So we're going to obviously have to
And that
modify some
part of it
that.
we would use for the recycling, and then we would continue the trash in the regular
Yes, sir.
building that you have there now.
And Commissioner Dooley had, if he can hear me, he had brought up the fact about, there was a significant cost to hauling the solid waste off. By them, I have talked to the contractor that presented to you all, and they're able to work that out where we could take that to Eagle Point and still get the host benefit that we receive now, which would cut down on that cost.
Other questions for David?
Got one for finance, I guess. I should, I'm gonna be like Commissioner Gaines and ask you something when you're don't have all your paper with you, but what kind of funds we got in that? Don't we have a solid waste fund? Do we know about what we got in there now? Roughly?
I know that there's $100,000 in slots that's remaining
Raining?
to be used for recycling transfer station.
Mhm.
So we've got part of it taken care of out of that. And then there is.
It's like $7,000 or something. There wasn't a lot left in that
Solid waste?
solid waste.
I don't know.
We have to keep a certain amount in
$1
solid
million.
waste.
Yeah,
for
I
the
mean, the
land-
overages or
For
something.
the landfill
For the landfill.
reclamation. We got to keep that amount in there. But that's not, that's not part of the,
That's not.
one of that 100,000
Right.
Then you would need what, $175,000?
for option 1.
So we don't know how much we've got in there roughly.
Check. I think you would be able to take care.
Okay.
Don't hold me to this because I think you would be okay.
You're talking about enough money to do option 1.
And yeah.
Yeah, not option 2.
Find it with this-
Splosh money. Yes, ma'am.
Chairman. That's county manager.
Go ahead.
Is that 275,000 roughly approximately? Is that to do any repairs on the existing?
Yes,
the
sir.
Concrete, the metal?
Yes, sir. Yeah, the actual structural beams and stuff like that and the flooring and all that was talked about before inside the existing transfer station. It would include that and then it would include expanding the existing bin area and coming out with additional concrete wall and then separating the bins and redoing that. So it would include pretty much everything that we're talking about. Not expanding it footprint wise, but expanding it, you know.
So possibly we could open some of the services back we've kind of
Yes, sir.
delayed on. Which
What-
would give us some more revenue back in.
Yeah, well, in the scales, for example, you know, we do have residents that may come in and do some home renovations or that kind of thing, then that would still be available on that side. We'd have the scales to be able to weigh and we charge per ton. on
We're
it.
not proposing going back in the commercial business though,
It's up to the board.
not right now anyway,
Yes,
because that would require more repair work
it
to
would.
be done
More repair work in the big room.
than what this 250,000 would cover.
What's the estimated cost for additional staff if we go option one where it's separated?
Well, the way that it's set up, you know, on the Pickens side is that they do have one additional attendant out there that is in the shack that actually helps citizens, you know, as far as teaching and educating and doing that. So we would probably look at, you know, maybe 2 part-time positions, one to split that time up rather than a full-time position. We do have the 2 attendants that we have out there now that handle the transfer side. So logistically, we'd work that out.
I know we haven't had a very good luck with getting part-timers, but I think we've combined a lot of these recently or turned them into full-time because nobody wants to work part-time. How much, what's the, from a percentage standpoint, what do you anticipate the amount of people going to the existing side with construction garbage versus, I mean, this one's obviously going to be higher traffic, I would think, because it's more household just volume wise. Right.
Mhm. Yeah, you know, most of the big debris and stuff that we see is through what we had before through the commercial folks. As far as residential goes, it's not that high of a percentage. I'd say maybe in the 10 to 15%. You know, of course, your solid waste part of it is greater, which is your trash garbage, you know, that kind of thing. Like I said, we've been kind of limited and restricted on our recycle. I think if we get a program similar to this and get it set up, I think we'll see a large increase in that area. So
Do you think we could reposition the person that sits in the current new building that we have where the waste station is down to the smaller shack in the new place? So, I mean, we could have one person and maybe do a walkway back and forth. If the existing facility where the waste station and the new building's at, if it's not going to be used very much, but 10% of the time, do we really need extra people if they could go back and forth?
and we may not. And again, it gives us an opportunity to monitor the situation and see, you know, what we need to do and be able to come back before you later on. I certainly think we can handle what's there now, improving on that. So we are looking at, you know, some additional like inmate labor, that kind of thing that we've been talking with the sheriff's department on and getting that back up and running. So
Yeah, I mean, my biggest concern is our forever cost of additional people and separating them, out, which we had that conversation. If it doesn't work
Right.
to go over on the other side, it doesn't work, you know, but
well, I think it does work. I think that, as I said, when we get maybe further down the road, it may be part of the main discussion as to, you know, building it out over on that area. But I mean, from a funding standpoint, I think, well,
Yeah.
right now to see what we do, it's probably money better spent.
fair enough.
Any other questions for David?
Dave, I think you may have talked about it a little bit, but did you speak with them about the MSW rate for the compactors that would be in the recycling being about hauling them to Eagle Point and dumping under air rate versus paying the $80 per ton that they had proposed?
Yes, sir. I did talk to them about that, as I mentioned a minute ago. I have talked to them about that. They haven't given me a number yet. We got to look at the tonnage rates and all and see what it comes back at, but they are willing to make an adjustment on that.
Okay, that's, that's what I was just wanting to check, because right now it's a pretty substantial difference. If it was a 10-ton container, the air disposal fee on it would be around $250 versus theirs would be around $800, just for disposing of the trash. And, you know, if it gets taken to Eagle Point, you know, we get 50 cents per ton of that back. So you're looking at $5 on a 10-ton load. So I just kind of wanting to see if we could maybe save a little bit there, by dumping under air account, since we get a lot better rate at Eagle Point.
Yes, sir. And we can always, like I said, we can always continue to do that. We're pulling maybe two to three loads a week. So if it's not cost effective, then we can certainly continue doing what we're doing now and have that separated on the other side.
Right.
Other questions for David?
I guess, I mean, if you free up the labor, going back to labor, if you free up the guys that are driving the trucks now, I know we've got some holes in staffing on the roadside. Do they automatically go back to the roads department, or what are those guys going to do that are doing the
Oh,
stuff?
They would. Yes, sir.
Okay.
They would. I mean, they came out of that. We've had one that does all the hauling permanent. So that individual could certainly be used to man that attendance station on the other side if they had to, while we're, hiring on the other side for that replacement.
Do we have any idea of what we take? And I know we do, you just may not have it with you, but bag trash versus the weighed trash that we take now?
I don't have that number, Commissioner Dooley. A lot of times that is mixed together and we just take it as a container. I think in our discussions that has something that we need to try to get I think a better handle on, so that we can take a look at where we need to, focus on. But typically it comes in, it all goes in one trailer and then it's hauled off. And so,
Right. Well, that's what
possibly
I was
through
just
this,
getting to Commissioner Gaines' point about the drivers and stuff. We'll still have to have those over there for anything that comes in that's not bagged, that has to be weighed.
right.
So I don't know how much, I was just trying to figure out how much volume change there would be in one or the other.
Yeah, I don't have that number.
Other questions?
Oh, I just sitting here thinking about what that lady said a while ago, taxes going up and she's not getting the services, and people of Dawson County's depended on that landfill for a long time, or that transfer station, and we've cut services. We're sitting here talking about one person. We're taking people out of the road department to work over there now, and we don't have enough people in the road department. I mean, my recommendation is to hire the people we need to hire, put over there, and spend the money we need to spend and put it back in service. Because that's the service we've taken away because the condition it got in. I mean, we're sitting here talking about one person working a job to check people in and out versus taking somebody off the road department that's out there fixing the roads, cutting the grass, correcting the right of ways so people could see and get out of their driveways. And I say hire the person to do the job. I mean, we can't hire enough now in the road department, yet we're gonna take somebody away from the road department, put them at the transfer station. So we need one more person to run it, hire the person and run it, put the money in there to fix it, and give the people back their services.
Other questions for David or comment? Thanks, David.
Thank you.
All right. You have a couple of options. And to Commissioner Satterfield's comment, I mean, I don't have a big problem with hiring somebody else either, once we figure out exactly what we need. I think we have to determine tonight which option we're gonna go with in reference to doing the necessary repairs we need to do and to separate out the recyclables if we are going to be in the recycling business, which we have a lot of citizens that love the recycling part of it, and I don't blame them for that. Do some of that myself. So, and our current system of recycling and the single stream does not work. We wind up paying for that as trash more than we wind up for that being recycled because it becomes contaminated. Everything comes in a bag or different things like that, unless you're going to open up every bag and look in it, you're never going to be able to fix that. But with this new system, you will, like I say, that's what that attendant would do. It'd walk along with that person as they put them in and make sure they put their recycles in the right bin until they had done it enough times that they know exactly what they're supposed to do based on the type of the bottle, jug, whatever it is, color and everything else that's associated with that. Works real well. Pickens County, and hopefully at some point in time, we can get to that. And they also get to the point like they have done to where it is a self-paying for itself type operation. But I think tonight we're trying to decide if the board's desire, we want to go with option one, where we'd spend approximately $275,000 to make the necessary repairs and to set us up in the recycling business. And then when that's done, then that would give staff and David an opportunity to come back to this board with the staffing request that they would need to make it go. So is there a desire by the board to make a motion in reference to one of the two options?
Just now.
There's about $600,000 available in the solid waste fund, because we go that route. There's also, so we had the $100,000 in the SPOS, but, there's an additional $500,000 in SPOS that has not been allocated. So you could choose to either pay for it all out of SPOS 6 or a combination of SPOS 6 and solid waste or out of solid waste. So
$600,000 that you
Solid waste.
in solid waste is above and beyond what we have to set aside for the reclamation of the, okay.
Unrestricted, but it has to be used for garbage stuff. You can't use it for just anything.
That's what we're talking about.
Right. So you could use it for this.
You can use
So,
it,
yeah, this is more restricted. So you got to use that because then splash is much more open to
Got
be used for
more
different.
categories you can
Yeah.
use it in. Okay,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve option one and set the limit at $350,000. That way, and hopefully go under that, but just the way the prices are now, and that's an estimate. And that way you don't have to come back to us to ask us for another 50,000 or 100,000. So I'd like to make a motion to approve option one with the limit of 350,000.
okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Satterfield,
Second.
second by Commissioner Dooley. Discussion.
Yeah, my only comment is, I agree that we need to offer the service. Again, I don't know if it was taken the wrong way, but I'm always looking at what the forever costs are. So, if it's a more efficient way to do it, then that's why I asked about it before. That more efficient route doesn't work, then I think we're on the right path. So thank you for at least looking at another option to consider.
And Chairman, I guess I need to amend my motion to say it comes out of the solid waste fund.
Okay,
Thank you, Vicky.
all right, so we have an amendment to the original motion that the money would come out of the solid waste fund. Do I have a second on that amendment?
Second.
Second by Mr. Gaines. Any further discussion? We'll take the amendment up first. Any further discussion on the amendment? Hearing none, please vote.
Aye.
And that is approved 3-0 that would come out of the solid waste fund. And now we'll take up the original motion. Any further discussion?
I would like to mention, talking about Chris's point about if we have to hire another attendant, we will be cutting a little bit of cost with their single stream recycling because of, the contamination fees that we've been paying. I think it's been a pretty substantial amount. That's what we pay when those containers are contaminated. So if we have somebody not watching that where that stuff doesn't happen, that will save us a little bit of money. It probably won't be enough to pay for a person, but there will be a little savings there, I think.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, please vote. And that is approved 3-0 as well. All right, we'll move on to new business. First up, we have consideration of request for addition of position classification. Chief Thompson brought that to us a couple of weeks ago. Basically what this is, it makes a firefighter B classification and a firefighter recruit classification. Some of the things that Chief Thompson's office and staff deal with is currently we have firefighter, paramedic, firefighter EMT. We'll get an application that maybe they're an EMT, but they're not a firefighter. We'll get an application that maybe they're a firefighter and they're not an EMT or not a paramedic. And so this gives them the opportunity to hire that person at and he provided you with a pay scale for that at a lower rate, get them trained and qualified to move up to the qualifications that we currently have. Say that right? All right. Any other information needed? Motions?
Make a motion to approve the classification.
Motion by Commissioner Satterfield,
Second.
second by Commissioner Gaines. Discussion.
Can I ask Chief one day?
Go ahead.
Talking about firefighter, EMTs, paramedics. I know on the federal level, as far as military paramedics, they passed the thing during COVID to recognize their certification. Did Georgia? Because I had that conversation today with,
I would have to research that for you. The only thing Georgia added during COVID was the new position of EMT R, which is essentially, if you remember, back a long time ago, we had the first responder.
Position. State of Georgia Office of EMS basically took that position and has now made it an EMT-R position. So it's essentially a 2-week position that they've created, or 2-week EMT
I
program
just
that's
wanted
out
a
there.
new recruit angle as far as going after a military combat medic or something like that. I know
Yeah,
at
most
the
of your-
federal level they did.
And most of your military personnel now, when they go through their EMT training, they're going through national registry.
Good.
So they're able to take their national registry and apply through the state of Georgia for reciprocity because we're a national registry state.
Thank you.
Once we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, please vote. And that is approved 3-0. Next up, we have consideration of requests for funding for fire hydrants. Chief Thompson brought that as well. That was for some new line that's being upgraded as well as some other areas that's already stubbed out. What was that total, Chief?
76,400.
Okay, and that was requested to be from fund balance. Okay. Any other information needed?
Can we use that 500,000 remaining splosh to go towards that? What you just mentioned?
It'd be pushing it.
Capital purchase, capital. improvement.
Be pushing it, I think. It's not, for it to be a capital purchase, still has to fall in the categories that were in Splosh. And so
I thought we had.
we had,
some
we
fire.
had
the
fire,
previous one. we had-
previous
not-
Splosh, we
not
had that,
this
but not
time.
in this last one.
I tried.
Yeah.
Fund balance.
What's the pleasure?
Oh, I'm sorry. Chair. Go ahead. Chris.
Go ahead.
Make a motion to approve. Come out of fund balance.
The amount of $76,400.
$76,400. Yes, sir.
Motion by Commissioner Satterfield,
Second.
second by Commissioner Gaines. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote.
Aye.
And that's approved 3-0. All right, we'll move on to item number 3, which is the land donation agreement. We went over that at the work session. So that property description in Exhibit A is, I'm reading that right, is 4 tracks.
Yes, and I'd love to clarify that. I read from the first parcel, but it's 120 acres
Okay.
located off Elliott Family Parkway. The intersection of Highway 183 and 136 and Highway 183 and 342.
And for those of you who might not have been here at the work session, this is a donation from a Mrs. Ann Stiles, a longtime Dawson County resident who is donating this property to the county. And so, you have anything else to add?
Well, I would just like to add, I know Commissioner Fawcett is watching from home and was unable to be here tonight. And I hate that she's not here because she's worked tirelessly on this project. Very grateful to Commissioner Fawcett for all of her work on this. And of course, Ms. Stiles for her gracious donation to the county. I just want to extend that appreciation to Commissioner Fawcett. Also to note that this 120 acres is designated for a park pursuant to the donation agreement. So upon approval of this, we will commence our due diligence and proceed towards a closing.
Okay. Questions? Comments?
Comments, I just echo what our legal said that, thanks Sharon, thanks Ms. Stiles, Angie, your staff. I know they put a lot of hours and time in it, back and forth, and, thank y'all too, but I think this will be a good place for a park and for a long time. But, thank everybody that was involved in it.
What's the pleasure of the board?
Make a motion that we approve the donation of the land as described.
Motion by Commissioner Gaines,
Second.
second by Commissioner Satterfield. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote.
Aye.
And that is approved 3-0. Our final item on the agenda tonight is Sheriff presented earlier today, Sheriff's Office traffic direction pay. The Board of Education had approved a $10 an hour increase in reference to the people that do traffic to help him get off-duty officers to continue to do that. He'd asked the Board of Commissioners to do the same thing. For 10, and this is we split these cost with the Board of Education. He would be going from 4 officers and down to 3, which will help some of that cost. Our portion of that would be $3,600 additional dollars. And so, any other information needed? Motions?
Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the, SO traffic officer pay increase.
Motion by Commissioner Satterfield, second by Commissioner Gaines. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote.
Aye.
That is approved 3-0. All right, so no one signed up for public comment
No, sir.
in this segment. I want to thank everyone for their attendance. We are adjourned.